Hello, what's up, and welcome back. We are again back in the Pauper format, the Eternal Pauper deck tech, and as you see, we have again some tribal deck discussion for today, and we welcome the Elves deck in this Pauper. And again, if you are new here, just going for another deck tech or deck discussion for this episode. And we know that Elves has been quite existing archetype back in its early days of Magic the Gathering. I think I've also played this one in a way where we had some support in the standard format. I think that was many years ago. But anyway, we still explore today with this deck as we sort out what will be its list in the Eternal Pauper metagame. So we found this list. I think it made into the top 4 or top 8 of a local tournament, and it was posted in the MTG top 8 website. So we check the list of the commons version. It's like mostly post, of course, of elves with the 35 creature count. But we can see here that we have a new splash of blue for Distant Melody, and that is composing the 11 sorceries in the main deck and 14 lands. That's quite very low, and for 15 sideboard here, which we are going to discuss later on. So let's see why 14 lands is enough for this kind of deck build. And as we know, this archetype is very explosive in terms of mana production. As I have jokingly said earlier in the day, that a turn 1 elf is very essential for an aggro player. Thus, more so in this build wherein we are basically very supportive of the tribal archetype. So you can see here we have several 1-drops that can basically produce mana on its own. We have Elves Mystic, we have of course Land War Elves, that's 3 copies, and the Spira Sentinel, which is originally from Kaldheim, which can also do some variants of producing mana. But this time it's just going to need you to untap or tap and untap creature control to add 1 mana of any color. That is very useful again for the splash colors here. And of course the old school Fendhorn Elves from, I think the first version here would be the Ice Age. Let us check. So here, so this is the Ice Age version of the Fendhorn Elves. And of course Berserker Rangers, which is again from the Elf Bull deck, that can produce mana by tapping 2 untap elves you control, and also can be used for morph. And later on, for any combo of this, we need of course the Priest of Titania. So this is now the core creature to produce a huge amount of mana for each elf you control or each elf in play, basically, even that of your opponent's elves. And then you can also have Carrion Ranger to untap a creature. So return a forest you control to its source hand, and then untapping a creature, you can basically untap this one again to produce a whole lot of mana and do your other shenanigans. Now, these core cards of the elf deck, we have also some ways to basically aggro them out, in which we have this 2-drop of the Elvish Vanguard. This is originally from the Onslaught set, which was a rare back in the day, but was then demoted to that of a common, but is now very useful to this deck archetype. You can see that whenever an elf enters the battlefield, you can put up a substitute counter Elvish Vanguard. Basically, it gets bigger and bigger, and later on can become a good attacker in its play to trip off that of your opponent's life total. In that setup also, we have several ways to also pump out your other creatures. We have Timberwatch Elf to do the thing, in which can also combo out well with the Birchlore, the Carrion Ranger, wherein tapping it to have your target creature gets +X and pump out where X is the number of elves in play, and tapping it again to produce another activation for 2 target elves that can also get you to have a good attack. And also for the longevity of the deck, we have 2 copies of Lisanana Handmaster, wherein it can produce a horde of elf warrior tokens that whenever you cast an elf spell, you may create this one for each of the elf spell trigger that you will do. And one of these specific creatures can act out as your utility, because this one, for example, Venshaper Prodigy, when it's kick, look at the top 3 cards of the library and put them in your hand and the rest on the bottom of your library in order. That's also a good way to get you sort of a cantrip effect. or card draw effect. And then we have a copy of Well Wisher. So in any instance that you need to gain life, you have a copy of this in your main deck that can produce also life for each of the elf in the battlefield. So with the setup of the deck, we check on the sorceries. So which is aside from the 14 lands, we also need to have a gas in the form of these 3 specific cards. As you've seen here, this is also common in other aggro decks. You can choose creature or land for Winding Way to get you to put all cards of the chosen from the top 4 cards of the library revealed, or you can use Lead the Stampede to get the top 5 cards of the library to reveal any number of creature cards and put it in your hand. So basically that is your gas. And also this one, this is Distant Memory or Melody that was first printed in Lorwyn. I think this is in the Lorwyn Black, that is Boarding Tide. So you can choose as a creature type and then draw a card for each permanent you control of that type. So that's very good, massive card draw effects. With all these elves into play in the main deck of 35 creatures, you can pretty sure make sure that all of these shenanigans of your creatures can also be refilled in case that your opponents may have a way to get rid of your curve early on with some damage effects or massive, like a pyroclasm effect. You can just refill them with these sorceries. And up with the sideboard, let's just do a quick rundown. Of course, you need counter spells for most of the specific matchups, especially with the control. We have Dimir and other variants of the control decks, even in Pauper. So you need to have this spell to counter the spot removals that can also counter any instant spell. You can also negate them to counter a non-creature spell, that is 3 copies in the sideboard and 2 copies of the spell. And for any shenanigans with the artifact or the affinity decks, as we know that we have also a variance of the Boros or even Azorius version of that deck for the specific archetype, you can board in a copy of Gorilla Shaman that can destroy this by non-creature artifact with mana value X, and Gleeful Sabotage that can also destroy target artifact or enchantment. But the bonus, you can conspire this by tapping 2 untap creatures you control that share a color with it. So that means if it is conspired, you can copy the spell and choose a new target for that copy. So that's 2 for 1 card removal, and this is also very relevant, especially in those artifact matchups and affinity matchups. Also, we have Masked Vandal that can also do some destroy effects. As it enters the battlefield, you may exile a creature card from your graveyard. Then you can exile target artifact or enchantment your opponent controls. And that bonus is that it is a changeling, so it's also counted as an elf in any of your elf pump effects or life gain effects. And speaking of which, we have also another copy of Well Wisher, so that we can have higher chances of getting this one from your library in case you would need life gain effects for any certain matchups. And last but not the least is this specific enchantment that is also white. Creatures you control gets +0/+1. Limited Field would help you against any board wipe, that those specific board wipes that has the need to deal 1 damage to each creature, and Limited Field will protect you from that kind of damage effect. And also it can be morphed for a 2/2 for 3, and in instances that you would not need extra copies, you just can cast this one some more creature. So that's also an added creature on your board and it's an added threat, for instance. So let's check. Our mana value for the mana curve is 1.98, very specific for the 1 and 2 drops. We have variants at very many of these 1 drop in the deck. And then card distribution will not really matter because we're basically mono green with a few splash that can be produced by the specific creatures of the Spira and Birch Lore Rangers that can also add that for that mana fix. And last but not the least are our tokens. We have only the specific Elf Warrior token here as a way to get to produce that we can use as a token for the deck. And that's pretty much it for this list. If you are still fan of this tribe and have played this one as an Elf Ball, maybe in older formats such as Legacy, and then I suggest you get this version of the Pauper and try this one on your next local MTG Pauper tournament, or even in MTG Online if you have the cards or the resources to do or to create this deck on your that platform. So I guess that's pretty much it, guys. Thank you for watching on this deck tech for Pauper Elves by Draco Cards. Don't forget to like, subscribe, notifications on, and see you guys on the next video.